It's a beautiful Monday morning here in Lagos. Good morning. This morning, I am Nifemi Oguntoye. Of course, I'm standing in for Yemi Folari, favorite, of course, they call him fondly called Uncle Yuri on this show. There's a lot of counting down taking place this moment. Some are counting down to Christmas, the New Year, but we're counting down to the much talked about 2019 general election, and we're turning our attention to the controversies shrouding the Electoral Act Amendment Bill. It's no longer news that last week Thursday, President Muhammadu Buhari for the fourth time rejected assent to this bill, transmitted to him to sign into law by both the Senate as well as the House of Representatives. You recall that the Senior Special Assistant to the President on National Assembly matters, Senator Ita Inang, had in the previous rejections cited draft errors as regards cross-references as reasons for turning this particular bill down. Now, a lot of reactions have already started coming in. There are the 70 chairmen of political parties under the umbrella of Inter-Party Advisory Council saying that they will no doubt even boycott the 2019 general election if President Muhammadu Buhari doesn't change his stance. There are also other three presidential candidates who have already gone to court to test whether he can sign this into law given the short time before the general election. There are a lot of questions to ask here. What's the implication of not signing this law prior to the big one in 2019? What is wrong with the substantive one? Of course, the Amendment Act of 2010 and quite a number of other issues. Don't forget also that the PDP wants the two-thirds of the National Assembly to override Mr. President. Whether or not they're going to get this number, we're going to have to find out. Let me introduce my guest to you this morning. I have a lawyer, former second National Vice President of the Nigerian Bar Association, Mr. Mondo Yekachubani. Good morning this morning.
Thank you. Good morning this morning.
Chiksuwoko is a publishing public affairs analyst. Thank you for joining us on the program.
Thanks for having me.
Let me begin with the lawyer. This time the president has refused to assent to this bill, citing the fact that it is too close to the 2019 general election and that signing this into law right now could provide an opportunity for disruption as well as confusion. Now, his position is mainly based on international conventions. So most people are talking about the ECOWAS Protocol on Democracy and Good Governance. Section 2, Article 2, subsection 1 here says, no substantial modification shall be made to the electoral laws in the last 6 months before the elections, except with the consent of a majority of political actors. Other people are saying that how relevant is this? Is it binding to our laws, our conventions laws in Nigeria?
You have asked several questions. I hope I will be able to answer all of them at the same time. But I have an opening statement to make, and that opening statement that is a very big shame for us as a nation that we have been going forth and backwards with our electoral amendment process. Which is very imperative and key to ensuring credible election. If you want to have a credible election, your electoral laws must actually be in place, and there must be some level of improvement from the previous ones. This amendment did not start today. To the extent that virtually everyone knows the major amendment, the highlights of the amendment of this new bill that has been rejected. This is the fourth time. The president has rejected it. The first time was issue of sequence. I think the second time was issue of grammatical and typographical
draft errors and all
that. Then this current one is issue that is so close
to the election.
To election itself. Let's take him. Let's take our president with the greatest respect with regards to closeness to election time. If there was issue of being sensitive to time, I think that what the president should have done is that immediately that bill is sent to him, he would have looked at it and raised those queries earlier to and send it back to the National Assembly in order to actually reflect whatever his desires are or whatever his concerns are. Now, you allow this bill to elapse within the time of 30 days. That is actually has been the pattern. He will allow the last date, to return back the bill and all that. So if you have that sense of urgency, in you, and that sense of patriotism to ensure that we have an electoral law that is in place for 2019, all your actions should have been guided by that idea of doing things in a manner that shows I want everyone to know this law and we operate with this law in 2019. Then waiting for 30 days, within which you now, you use the last day to now say, look, this is the issues and these are your concerns, doesn't show to me that is issue of that you are sensitive to issue of time, to me. So let's, take him on that aspect. And I don't think that is proper for this law to be rejected. I mean, for the president not to assent to it. The concerns he has expressed are concerns that can be addressed. If there are issues of typographical error, those things can be corrected. If there is issue of time, the INEC itself is not complaining because INEC is umpire. INEC is the one to organize the election. The budget they sent to the National Assembly that was appropriated, with regards to those intended amendments, they have already taken that into consideration. They even mentioned that there will not be incidence form in the new election that is coming up. It's going to be, a card reader throughout. It's either the card reader is
electronic transmission of results and all
beautiful.
of that.
These are issues INEC has taken into consideration and they are planning. And I've never seen INEC issued any statement saying, look, we are not comfortable with this amendment, and so we need a timeline within which to master it.
I'll be back
the
with
stakeholders
you,
are not complaining. So the president complaining at this point in time, to me.
I'll be back with you shortly on some of
yes,
the issues that
yes,
you have pointed. Let me
yes.
bring Chooks into this conversation. What the president is saying is that the election process has already begun since INEC released a timetable, that any amendment in the electoral law right now will be like changing the goalpost in the middle of a game. How relevant is that?
How relevant is that? I guess that the question really is, does he have the right to abstain from signing that bill?
Of course it does.
It does?
Yeah.
And so, he has refused to sign the bill. I haven't heard, this is the first time, on my way here I was trying to track to find out what reasons that he gave, but from what you said, I don't think that's the reason that he gave. Nobody has been able to categorically say to us that this is what Mr. President
No, we already have access to that document.
Okay.
One of the reasons that Mr.
One
President,
of the reasons.
Of course, the pivotal reason
Yes.
would be that Nigeria is signatory to a lot of international conventions.
I don't
One of
think
it is the statement, the provision of ECOWAS that I read earlier. The fact that you
I
are
heard
not
you.
allowed to tamper with an
I
electoral
heard
law
you.
less than 6 months to a general election.
I heard you. Yeah, I do not agree that that is the pivotal. Because, like the barrister said, if that was the case, he would have been careful enough to sign it to beat the 6 months deadline. But my concern in this matter is twofold. Number one, you and I and almost all our viewers and the other Nigerians and the women who are going to vote on the election days and all that, we have no benefit in this argument that is going on. It doesn't benefit us in any way. Me and you, I am not contesting the election. I'm not aware that Onyekachi say contesting any election.
But electorates are also supposed to be stakeholders and determine.
We are stakeholders,
who
but on this matter, the people that we are hearing their voice in what I term, the outward conformity with that inner reality. I'm just trying to speak that English to avoid saying that this is hypocritical. Do you understand what I'm saying? What I've just said is, in one word, is hypocrisy. When people are, this has become a debate.
Hypocrisy on whose part, precisely?
On the part of the politicians, on the part of the senators, on the part of all the people who are in opposition political party, and on behalf, and even the people who are in the political parties. Every time we have this election and electoral issues come up, and the Electoral Act is constantly being amended, everybody is seeking for an advantage. Nobody's seeking to give us an advantage. Do you understand what I'm saying? So when you hear all the debate that is going on, listen to all the argument that is going on. everybody is speaking for themselves. Everybody is seeking their interest. Nobody is seeking my interest. And I say that because in the going to 2015 election, we got to a point where inside the National Assembly, the Electoral Act was amended. And you know who was contributing and seeking amendment? It was the then president and some members of the hallowed chambers. What was the issue? They were bent on proscribing political parties. And they ended up proscribing political parties. So going into 2015 election, and in fact, having gone into 2015 election, may I ask you a question that I probably do not expect you to answer? How many political parties contested the election?
Which election are you talking about?
The 2015 election. Because going into this 2019 election, we have close to 100 political parties. We have many political parties that were registered.
91 political parties right
yes.
now
But
ahead
when
of 2019 election.
In less than how many years ago, just less than 4 years ago, the same, on election eve, the same Electoral Act was amended with the intent of destroying other people's destinies. One of those political parties that was affected was my political party, Fresh Democratic Party. We went to court. We wrote a petition and a letter to then Senate President, Senator David Mark. We went to court. We secured judgment. INEC did not respond, did not challenge the appeal, did not reinstate the political party. So I come to a conclusion that this argument and this debate that is going on, it is these political actors that are on different divides that are arguing for their own personal end. The Nigerian people are not being considered. It's of no immediate benefit to us. So what I think is, what I've asked you is, has the president got the right to do what he has done? Your answer to me is right, that he has the right. So he has not signed it. Let's move on to the next stage. Maybe the bill needs to be vetoed. What I've said to you and I've drawn your attention to is that when it happened in 2014, when the Electoral Act was amended to destroy other political parties. In fact, we went into that election having a political party was where President Buhari contested representing the North, and you had a sitting president contesting a Southerner. And it was done in such a way that it would be a Northern and a Southern contest. No, you people didn't raise an eyebrow. Nobody made any noise. We were, later Fred Agbaje went to court to challenge the case, and we won. I didn't hear you people make it an issue. I came here, and I was shouting on top of my voice. Nobody did anything about it. It wasn't of any debate to anybody. So let's be fair in the things that we're doing in this country. It's not only two political parties that we have in this country. Other people's destiny were annihilated, were destroyed, going into 2015 election. Here, what is the issue here? The issue here is that the president has looked at this, and by the way, I think it's just a mockery. I had the opportunity of watching a TV program where I saw these senators amending typographical errors in a document that had just been returned from the presidency. And I thought, what is going on here? So one needs to be very careful in dealing with these issues. If the president has returned it, please let them do the next thing. Nigeria is an ongoing concern. The senators and the House of Representative members are still there. Let them veto the whatever, and let us move on.
It's all right, Mr. Obani. Earlier, you highlighted the need, the lofty amendments in this particular document, and of course, we know already about the order of election, the bandwagon effect of having the presidential election forced. There's a legal framework to the use of card reader, because that is highly debated. The fact that the 2015 election, some would say, did not have the backing of the law with the use of card readers. But there are very critical observations that the president has made in this new amended bill. And it's Section 63, subsection 4 of the Substantive Electoral Act, which addresses the issue of counting of votes and forms. This subsection says the presiding officer should count and announce the result at the polling unit. But the amended version to this subsection strikes out count and simply states that the presiding officer should announce the result. The inference of this, of course, on the part of the presidency, that this is liable to manipulation in a general election. How do you react to this as a legal practitioner?
It is important we don't, to hang a dog, you have to call it a bad name.
Okay.
Are you following me? If the word count is omitted, that can be put in. Because there is no way you can even announce the result you have not counted. It goes without saying that I will announce what I have counted.
But isn't it
I'm
relevant
saying
also that
if it is an omission,
there are loopholes
I say
that
it
needs
is
to be checked?
it's not a loophole that will make this particular law not to be signed in, this bill not to be signed into law.
Well,
You are
Mr.
just-
President isn't
you are-
actually saying he's
hello,
not
sir.
signing
He
this,
didn't
yeah.
say it. He didn't. Current letter that you say you have access to, did not mention this. This one now that he's sending, that will be read on the floor of the House tomorrow, because I know that the House will be sitting tomorrow. They will read that letter openly and say the reason why the president is returning this bill. The president cannot, because of issue of omission of count, say I'm not going to sign. That the reason he gave is that that law, this particular law, should be known by all Nigerians, that this time is so short for Nigerians to know this law before 2019. That is what he's saying. But if the law will be implemented, let it be after 2019. Then it can be used for 2023. That is his reason. And I'm saying, if there are minor things that can be done in order to ensure that we apply this particular amendment that goes a long way to actually improve our electoral system. Because I watch other nations vote.
You don't think it is too late to do that, given the proximity
It is
to the
not
general
late.
election?
It is not late. If there is any intention on the part, if there is, on the part of these stakeholders to really move this country forward, there is nothing late about it, because our constitution says 60 days.
Are we learning from recent history? A similar occurrence happened last year in Kenya, when the electoral law was amended to include electronic transmission of results. That was responsible for the cancellation of that election, perhaps the most expensive election in the world, $480 million
Listen to me, sir.
down the drain.
Listen to me. Life is about change.
Okay.
Life is also about looking at what other nations are doing and getting it right. Our electoral system has been flawed. Almost all the elections we have in this nation, has always have one issue of ballot snatching, ballot stuffing, landslide, in quote, victories and all that. Until this PDP government that we have driven out actually did some level of amendment to the electoral process. And the issue of PVC came in. And 2015 election, if you remember generally, there was not issue of this landslide, where 12 million allegedly will vote in a state where only maybe 5 million are registered. Are you following me? So what did we achieve by that is that there was this application of technology a bit that eliminated man's intervention, that actually gave room for all this manipulation.
That's
and
right.
what this new law tends to do now is that we're improving on technology. Because I watch Britain vote. You go to work and, come just, some even through post. And all that. You stay in your room. Even in America now, I hear that you are home listening. You just stay and vote. You don't even need to go to this and another. So why can't we now emulate what is going on by improving our system? That is what we're trying. We're not even going to do 100% electronics. We're saying that the card reader, before you come to vote, you must ensure that your card reader, your PVC is recognized by the card reader, and then you now electronically transmit the number of those who are accredited immediately. So that there won't be issue of somebody now coming to say that 20 million people voted in an area where maybe only 5,000 are registered voters. So technology will begin to eliminate all those man's manipulation in the process, then tending towards credibility of the electoral process. Because when we don't get it right to the electoral process, you can't get it right with leadership, where the people's choice do not matter. And of course, in 2015, what happened is that the people's choice mattered. President Buhari was elected as a result of the goodwill of Nigerians, and they voted for him. And so this time around also, they're saying we also want that choice also to be reflected, whether to return him or to get somebody else. So we don't eliminate that. So with this little improvement that is in the system, I don't want any person now to be a cog in the wheel and begin to give reasons that are not tenable in order to stultify this particular process. The president's refusal of assent of this is not healthy for us as a nation. It's not patriotic enough, and we must do something about it. We did it with PDP. The civil society, they were not mindful of any political party they belong. We insisted on the electoral process being sanitized gradually, and the little improvement we have had in the electoral system is as a result of the NGOs, of the activists, and we cannot now play a different role entirely. We're not joining political party to play their politics. We're saying we are interested in Nigerian survival. We're interested in Nigerian survival of their democracy. We're interested in Nigeria sanitizing the electoral system. We cannot get it right with leadership
if we don't get it right with the
It's
electoral
all right.
process.
Mr. Walker, let me have your thoughts about this. Are we really ready for a full biometric accreditation process? I need to remind you very quickly that in 2015, there's a particular data here obtained from Deep Dive Intelligence that shows that about 21.4 million Nigerians voted in the 2015 election without full biometric authentication. Now, full biometric accreditation, authentication in this case, as explained by this report, is when the PVC and the fingerprint of a voter is successfully authenticated by the smart card reader. In the case of this amendment bill, just like the lawyer said, these figures will now automatically be transmitted to ensure that, there are no more votes than the number of people accredited. Yeah. But recall that in 2015, we had issues with these machines. And thank God that we had incidence forms. It would have been a main disaster. Do we have enough time to make this available? Do we have the technology? Do we have the manpower to effect these before the 2019 general election?
Look, Nifemi, even the technology that you people are mouthing and shouting, the Florida election, if you've forgotten the George Bush and Al Gore Florida incident, the recent Florida governorship election, in fact, not just Florida governorship election, including the senatorial election, where it has to be, the election votes have to be manually recounted. And you know how long it took to get it sorted out? And now we are dealing with the people here who are basically self-centered. We like to pervert things. There's no place you go to in the world where you have laws, whether it's electoral or constitutional, that is perfect. But the difference between other climes and here is that we are constantly looking for loopholes and other. I know the people who do these things. It's the politicians. It's not you and I. It's not you and I. So whether it's technology that we are deploying or incident form and other, you need people who are interested in having a flawless election. Allow the process as we have it to flow. If we want it, and by the way, you know, me and Onyekachi, we have had opportunity to be here too. At this time, 2014, going to 2015 election and all kinds of things that we're saying in this place. Oh, Nigeria is going to do this, Nigeria is going. We are going to have this election. The simple reason we're going to have it is that there is a greater power that is far above those who are constantly trying to cause mayhem and trouble in this country. When this election, look, think about it. By this time in 2015, 2014, going 20, all the crises that we had in Lagos and all the other parts of Nigeria, there was no indication, apart from those of us who kept insisting, that we can see beyond what was going on. That is number one. Number two, look, we just recently had an Ekiti governorship election in this country. We just had one in Osun State, plus all the hiccups and all that. But you know what? They're all man-made. They are all man-made.
Let me hold you quickly for a bit. We have Yakub calling in from Dokpemo. Good morning, Yakub. Please go ahead with your contribution.
Good morning. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, sir.
And then good morning, Pastor Obana and then Pastor Woku.
Morning, sir.
Let me begin by saying that I caught to disagree with about this point. For saying that with head of assent of Mr. President on that electoral bill, for that Mr. President is not patriotic enough. I thought to disagree that Mr. President is a patriotic Nigerian for which had his own accent on that bill. Why? Why? Because number one, he rejected that bill fourth time now. Let me give you one example. The third time that he rejected that bill, he was telling the National Assembly that you will not include the card reader. So for this reason, I'm not going to sign this. That is number one. It is unfortunately, Mr. Barrister Obani, I follow you up and down, radio station everywhere. You were saying this morning that a word of count, it does not necessarily that Mr. President will call the attention to that. The word of count does not mean anything. Now, what they are saying is that transmission of election, let me tell you, Barrister Obani, there was some state in this country whereby you see the network. It's just for you to even transmit that photo to the headquarters. Because in some places, that is where the incident form have been using the last election. If you not say that it's a criminal for electoral umpire that election in a various locality to transmit the election to the headquarters, I think it is barbaric. Mr. President should not sign that election. And let me just tell you this. almost some political parties also support Mr. President not to sign that electoral bill. Not only APC, not only Mr. President, we said this other thing. There's a lot of political parties also supported him not to sign that electoral bill because it's going to put us in the chair. What happened in Kenya? It is not the same thing that about happened.
It's all right, Yakub. I think you made a point. Thank you very much for your call, Yakub, from Dokemo.
I was speaking.
Of course he did, but I give you time to do that.
You will speak and all that. Look, maybe I need to hand over this letter to Mr. Ubani, to Barrister Ubani, but this is what I also would like to have a copy of, so that we can put things in context when we speak. This country belongs to all of us. Do you understand what I'm saying? Electoral Act, whether they sign it or whether Mr. President signs it or he does not sign it, I believe that he has the right to do whatever he wants to do. What is important to me this morning is that we're going to have this election by the grace of God, even though I believe that election does not bring a solution to Nigeria's problem. We haven't set our goals as a nation. Go to other climes, you hear President make a statement, or we're going to the moon. That's all he needs to dream or vision. Then these citizens will key into it, and they're doing all kinds of things. Before you know it, they're able to achieve our national goal and all that. This constantly remaining at this level of electoral act, and once the election ends now, we get into another round of agitation and all these losers and all that. I think that we need to sit down and agree where we need to take our nation to and all that.
Before I come to you, Mr. Ubani, let's take this call very quickly. Frank is calling us from London. Good morning, Frank.
Hello.
Please go ahead with your contribution, Frank.
Yeah. Hello.
We can hear you quite clearly here.
Yeah. I would like to contribute shortly to what you people are discussing about the electoral
Act Amendment
I would
Bill.
like to contribute to the issue of electoral act. I don't think Nigeria have enough time to do that right now. Number one, we are not even mature enough. We are always moving away from the truth. We are not trustworthy, we are not honest. The issue of using technology doesn't mean everything is perfect when it comes to technology. And it's easy for Nigerians to tamper with technology even than the US or the London, everywhere where we are right now. Russia tampered with election during Donald Trump's election. So what are we talking about? All this thing is politics. Fine, they improved on it during the 2015 election. Fine, but we don't have time for that right now.
It's all right. I think you made your point very clearly, Frank. Thank you very much for your contribution. You don't seem quite excited, Mr. Ubani, and I know that you have a lot to say, but let me just ask you this question and then you can make all your contributions. The 2015 election is adjudged to be free and fair, to an extent, a remarkable improvement from what we've had in this country. What is wrong with the substantive electoral law as it is? Can it not also provide a free and fair exercise come 2019?
Get it right. The only thing that is constant in life is change.
That's right.
And there are some certain flaws that were discovered. You remember what happened in Kogi State, where somebody contested an election towards the end of the result and all that, he died, and the act itself had no provision to that.
That's right.
That they have actually amended. The issue of automatic transmission of result also was not there. You know, as I said earlier, what we experienced under the PDP then, you know, was as a result of the fact that activists, the NGOs, you know, people who love this nation were insisting that we must improve our electoral process. For us to actually allow leadership that will emerge, that will change the course of event in this nation, is allowing people's will, you know, to matter. The mandate of the people is very important. Because of the fact that people will elect you, you become very sensitive even to attend to their needs and give good governance. But the moment you rig the election and come in, over years, we see that leaders do not care because they will manipulate themselves into power. But the moment power is given to the people, you see that every government becomes very responsive and responsible, knowing fully well you're coming back in 4 years' time. And so this electronic system we have introduced in 2015, where there was even the issue of card reader, and where the card reader fails, you now use incident form and all that. There was a lot of improvement in that electoral process that made people now to realize they can use their vote to vote out bad leaders. I'm just telling you this. And now this new law has now further improved on that. It's gradual. We are not going to learn and become experts, in all these issues and all that. And we cannot, because there are some issues, that arise from technology. We now say, oh, no more technology. Let's go back to 17th century. We keep on improving on these things. Even the developed societies have problems, but they keep on improving on them. So what we're saying is that if you have had electoral system, that actually apply technology, and there was some level of credibility, what we need to do now is to now build more on that electoral system, that we build more credibility in the process, which is what this law is actually intending. I need intellectual argument. I need, if somebody is telling me that the president shouldn't sign another, give me don't tell me because people we are so backwards we can manipulate, because the other one is easily manipulatable. That's why some governors are still governors today, because they use the manual form and they now wrote results that was more than what people were supposed to have even voted for. So we cannot allow that. Let us begin to improve on our using technology in order to solve problems almost everywhere in the world.
It's
now,
all right.
Technology is being applied in almost everything in order to solve problems. We cannot go backwards. And I don't like argument of people say we are not yet ripe. When are you going to be ripe? The world is not waiting for you.
Let me hold you, and then we'll take a break now. When we return, we'll talk more about controversies surrounding the Electoral Act Amendment Bill, especially at a time when PDP is asking the National Assembly to override Mr. President. Do stay with us. And thanks for joining us again. In case you just joined us, we're talking about the Electoral Act Amendment Bill, which Mr. President has now rejected assent to for the fourth time. Recall that the first version was rejected on March the 3rd when Mr. President claimed that the bill usurped the constitutional powers of INEC to decide on election matters, including the fixing of dates and other that they will be held. Of course, the appeal court seemed to have a contrary opinion to the decision of the Abuja High Court on this matter. The second version was also rejected on September the 3rd, barely 6 months after he declined assent to the first version. In the second and third cases, Mr. President cited some draft errors, cross-referencing. The latest happened on December the 6th, 2018, and one of the reasons is that we just do not seem to have enough time to address all of these issues. I have Mr. Mondo Yekachulbani and Mr. Chuks, help me with that surname. Woko. Thank you, gentlemen, for staying the course on the program. Now, let's turn our attention to the call by the People's Democratic Party that it's important now. It's asking the National Assembly to override Mr. President, according to the party, to save the nation's democracy. Interestingly, the APC did not get it to thought to remove the national leadership. Do you think that you can get it to thought this time?
I think it's an appropriate call. I think it's a call in the right direction. I think that that's what should happen. Like in my opening remark, I asked you if Mr. President has a right not to sign the bill, and you said he has. And having refused, we should go to the next level or to the next stage. So I believe that that's what should happen. But having said that, I have found out in recent times that it's become sectionally correct and appropriate to point finger at leadership. Do you understand what I'm saying? It makes for a good enterprise, as it were. But I think that as a Nigerian, what is right for the goose should also be good for the gander, as we normally say. What I'm not happy about is the noise that is ongoing right now. The same PD people that made that call sat in that place when they amended that bill in 2014. The man I respect so much, Senator David Mark, sat and supervised that 7th Assembly. And I remember that we wrote a letter to to him, asking him to intervene. Chizoba Onu represented us, was constantly running around and all that, late Fred Abaje. And this is the judgment that was delivered over an amendment bill, electoral bill that was amended. We went to court. This is a document, court judgment that was delivered by Justice J.O. Kolawole. He's a well-known, respectable judge in this country. So in less than 4 years later, somebody else is shouting, well, you have meted at the same punishment to other people, where you made it impossible for my political party and for Reverend Christopher Kote to contest the 2015 election. Nobody has asked why. Nobody has said anything. This is the only place I had opportunity a few years ago to talk about it, and after that, it died. It's the same thing. What you will not accept from other people, don't do it to other people. So the call is accepted. Let the National Assembly amend, veto the president. But this is a culture that they laid down for us. That's why it's bad to lay bad example, because the tendency to copy it is very high.
Well, Mr. Obani, it appears to be the next point of call, but how feasible it is? It appears the national... Okay, just before you answer that, let's go to Ibadan. We have Kule standing by on the phone. Good morning, Kule.
Good morning, sir.
Please go ahead with your contribution.
Well done, sir. My greeting to your guest there, sir.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Please, sir. I want to say something about what people are talking about, sir.
Let's go ahead.
What Barrister Obani was saying was true in terms of progressing. But I don't want to comment on that, sir. I know that we need to progress as a country, sir. But the way I'm looking at what the National Assembly, what they have been trying to do is politics, sir. Do they remember anymore? During the time of late our president, Musa Yar'Adua, sir, or Umar Yar'Adua, the man set a panel led by former Justice of Nigeria, to see into the way we will be conducting election in Nigeria smoothly, where there will be no any problem. Up to today, sir, the report of that panel cannot come out up to today, sir. So what was the politics behind it? Why are they now crying for this one now, sir? That is my question, sir. Thank you, sir.
You want to quickly respond to that?
The point is that most times people, want to really paint the members of the House black because of some of their previous antecedents. For God's sake, also, when there is some level of altruism, some of the things they do, let's also appreciate it. Some of us are tuned, with this amendment, which they have done, which actually will take us a bit higher than where we were in our electoral process. That is the truth. If you now begin to eliminate some of this human intervention that actually lead to manipulation, that will make our electoral process, to become credible. And when there is credibility, leadership that is actually good, that will give us good governance, will begin to emerge, because it's now an expression of the people's mandate. I am not ignorant of those hitches, that are called with technology, use of technology. What we do is that let's begin to work on them. We cannot, because of those hitches, now run away. You can't, because of the fact that you will die in the war front, run away from going to war. We must begin to work and see what other people are doing to improve on the structure. Let me talk about Mr. Nwoko's action. I don't know whether he's aware that I was part of the legal team that went to Abuja 2 or 3 times, at my own expense, to talk about the evil that was meted out to Fresh Political Party. The late Agbaje and a lawyer also in the church of where Chris Okote, I think Onikwamu, one lawyer like that. They are the one that brought me into the decision, and I said, look, it is wrong for a political party to be deregistered, not contrary to the provisions of the Constitution. And then there is a judgment that was not appealed against. Up to now, you have not been able. It was as a result of that intervention, the last press conference we had in Abuja, the next thing that INEC did was to ensure that they issued a new into a fresh party. We have always been there. The civil society must always be on the side of truth, not to any political party or to any individual in this country. We must owe allegiance to Nigeria. And when there is justice, we must always pursue it. I saw that injustice was meted out to this political party, and I stood at my own expense. You're going to Abuja to go and speak on Fresh Party, and at the end of the day, that this was restored and all that. So, for God's sake, we must also maintain that issue of being, patriotic enough and being loyal to the nation. Concerning what you have asked me,
just before you answer that, let me take this call from Oshogo. Good morning, Comrade Ayo.
Thank you very much. Good morning to you.
Please go ahead with your contribution.
Good morning to the guests there too.
Morning, sir.
You see, let us be frank with ourselves. There are two pertinent questions here. Does the president have the right to withhold assent? The answer to this is yes. Does the National Assembly have the right to override the president? The answer to this is yes. So we shouldn't be bothered. See, the cry here, I see the hands of politicians in all this. There are some things in this bill that favor the interests of some people. That is why they are crying that this bill should be assent to. This bill should be signed into law. We all know the type of people we are. I heard Barrister Obani saying the word count does not matter. Knowing the type of people we are, he knows as a lawyer, they can go to court and say the legislature did not say count, he said announce. So we know the people we are dealing with here. Politicians are very, very evil when it comes to election matters. We know what the type of people and the kind of people we are in this country. See, we are all here in Nigeria when the Electoral Act was passed during the Meji Bankole. You know, PDP was losing the election in court, in the appeal court. They have to sit down and amend the electoral law to say the election petition must move on to the Supreme Court, because as at that time, it favors them. Today, now, the president withhold assent. This is all politics. Don't let us deceive ourselves. The president withholding assent is politics. We all know that. The National Assembly crying all this is also politics, not the interest of the Nigerian people. Left to the Nigerian people, let me tell you, the 2015 Electoral Act is even enough to cater for our election. We had 2 elections here recently, Ekiti and Osun. In Osun State here, let me tell you, if it would interest you to know that there were no one incident form filled in any polling unit. We all went through the catheter process. See, so what are we talking about? The extant electoral law even provides that INEC has the power to determine the manner, the way which electoral will be conducted, which means if INEC says he wants to use card reader, the law is there to back them up. So what are we crying about? What is the shout all about? One thing I'm just pleading with the Nigerian people is Nigerians have the right to go out now. Go out 2019, February 16, take your card reader, go to the polling booth, vote for the person of your choice.
That's all right.
We all know the person we want to vote for in anyway. So we don't have, this cry by politicians doesn't really affect the Nigerian citizens, honestly.
Thank you very much for your contribution, Comrade.
I want to
He's
say
saying that politicians might just take advantage of
let me
your
say this. I didn't say
optimism.
that count, the word count did not matter. I said if there is any omission, issue of count, return it on time and let the correction be made.
But when you see
following me?
omissions like that, just a minute.
my friend,
When
the
you see
last time
omissions
the
like
the
that,
president sent it back
That's
to
right.
them, this issue of count, this particular section was not part of the thing he sent. Now, if you make that omission and you bring it, you want to point it out, oh, this error is grave, oh, they can be manipulatable and all that. What you do is that sense of urgency will will actually enable you, send it back, oh, make this correction because it is easily manipulatable. But when you now wait until the last day, you now begin to point out. So somebody
I
now begin to
understand your point
What
of
is your
view.
intention? If you really meant well, why wouldn't you have sent it and say, correct this immediately and send it back for me to assent? I mean, that is it. It's as simple as that.
Know, there are some who would also say
Yeah.
that, what about the long break of the National Assembly while this Electoral Act was in dispute?
That's crying.
Were they not also...
That's about us payment.
But these are relevant issues as well.
We're saying that we can. It's a shame. You know, I started my statement. That is a shame for us as a nation. Up to now, we don't have electoral law that has actually taken care of some of those flaws.
But Mr. Bani, my concern here is that even when the third version was returned to the National Assembly, according to the senior assistant to the president on National Assembly matters, the issue of card readers was omitted. Now, if there are these omissions, these draft errors, why are we in a haste?
I don't know. I don't understand what you mean by in a haste. When was the amendment made? This amendment was made, a very long time before, more than 6 months ago. We have been going forth and backward. Remember how many times this thing
But
has
the
been
bottom
talked
line
about?
is that as we speak right now, there is no
This
access.
is not going to be the
Let me
last
finish.
election
Let me
in
finish.
Nigeria. This is not going to be the last election in Nigeria. Anyways.
Allow me to.
I'll be with you. Right,
So
let's
what
just
was
get
said in this regard about the issue of overriding the president veto, the president has rejected the bill, and the law gives a leeway to the National Assembly members.
Do you think they can get the two-third?
No, I don't know. I don't know whether they will. There are those who will align themselves to their political party. There are those who want to say, look, this bill is good. and for whatever it is with all the this thing, we can make the necessary correction and go ahead and pass it. 2/3 majority, we just make it become an act of National Assembly. Whether they can muster that requisite number of members of the House that can do that is something that I cannot stay here now and begin to pontificate.
Doesn't
but
look
it's
feasible
important
from where we're looking at it from.
Sorry.
But let's bring in Reverend Lazarus from Kaduna. Good morning, Reverend. Hello, Reverend. Are you there? Can you hear me?
Yes, can I begin by greeting the gentleman in the House?
Good morning, sir.
And the Electoral Act Amendment Bill, I want to say clearly that the President has a right to even play politics in this particular matter, because politics is a game that everybody plays. The National Assembly can play politics. Politics are about interest. The people who are in the studio there, I believe majority of their thoughts may be drawing towards the area of their interest. But I want to say something very important. In as much as the president has power over that particular matter and the power to play politics in his own interest, the interest of Nigeria is supreme. The National Assembly may have power also to veto, but they also must consider
Not
the
to
interest
veto,
of
to
Nigeria.
override. They cannot
This particular Electoral Act Amendment Bill, how profitable it is to Nigeria. Now the question we must ask is, why has it been delayed from almost a year, delayed until now by the presidential assent? Why has it delayed until now? This we know is politics, and everybody who is speaking must be speaking in the interest of that interest, that particular interest. In the National Assembly aspect, why have they also waited until this moment for like a year before they raised this matter up? Immediately after the 2015 election, they should have known very well, because President Goodluck Jonathan said something in his book, and he said that he knew very well there has been election rigging, massive election rigging in Kano State, in Borno State, and some of these states mentioned in the north. Why have these issues not been raised by the National Assembly for a very long time? So the politics is so funny right now, and it's very dicey because the election is by the corner. And if you ask me, it would be better if it is assented to, but if it's not assented, we can still walk ahead and see how the elections can be better.
We have something we can
even
use.
in the 2019.
It's all right, Reverend Lazarus. Thank you very much for your contribution from Kaduna State. It's easy to blame this on politics, but the facts are there. The fact that, the president, each time he rejected an assent, he gave a reason, which many would say it is a relevant reason, whether you consider it so or not. But then the question right now is, it is no doubt, also certified that we have less than six months to the election. If there are myriad of issues, can't we just wait till after this election?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Knowing that my interest, like the last caller said, is that there were destinies that were decimated. You go to Nigerian court, you get a judgment. You go to a higher court, you get a judgment. INEC refused to attend to it, rendering a whole generation impotent. We couldn't contest election. Today, as I speak to you, we have a presidential candidate and we have governorship candidates around the federation, Imo State, Enugu State, and some other states. In 2015, we couldn't. And let me draw your attention. I did it before. You didn't catch what I was saying. Election in 2015 was between the North and the South. Maybe you do not know the implication or what God saved us from. The concept was to set the North and the South together just because of an election. People sat down and amended with a stroke of the pen. If you go and ask Honorable Kolawole, he will tell you in the court, he made that there's a presidential interest in making sure that Fresh did not contest that election. Here, in my opening remark, I told you that Nigerians, in all this quarrel, listen, if you the way people are speaking and crying over this thing, you will know their interest.
Let me hold you for a minute, Mr. Walker. We have Umar calling in from Lafayette. Good morning, Umar. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning.
Please go ahead with your
Hello.
contribution.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning. Please go ahead.
I'm members of the panel.
Morning to you, sir.
Yes, I want to say this, that both the executive and the legislative arm are fighting for their own interests, not the interests of Nigerians.
Why do I say this? Immediately after the 2015 general election, both the executive and the legislative had ample time to correct this. They never did because all of them told they were in APC and that they are going to continue. Now that they are divided, both of them want this done and the other one says, no, I'm not doing it. So it's not for the interest of Nigeria. What should play out now is for Nigerians to say, yes, we have seen the two of you. What you are fighting for is not for our own interest. So, 2019, immediately after the election, the House or the executive arm should take it upon themselves that whatever loophole that is discovered in the Electoral Act should be immediately amended and not waiting for when election is coming, then they will start running here and there. So Mr. President is right for refusing to sign the amendment because he is also protecting his own interest. As much as the legislators are also trying to protect their own interest. So this is my contribution. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Omar from Lafayette. You were making a point.
So the point I was making is that if this electoral act is in question, if Mr. President has refused to put his signature to it, let it be taken to the national, let them override it. But like we have all agreed, Nigeria should not be thrown into another round of crisis because you're setting a booby trap or you have hackers who are going to hack into this system and all that and all that. We have something that is already working. Let's stick with what has worked. The election is not going to end now, even though people like us believe that what we should be thinking of is how to have a cohesive nation where we can have one entity called, instead of addressing our nation as a country, we should be addressing as a nation. And that means that we are all speaking with one voice when it comes to national issues. We should not be hating one another. Because what if you check the temperature of people who are agitating against this, who are crying over this, and you will know that there's something inside it that you and I do not understand and do not know. And they're not explaining it. Let's work with what we have. Because, like I said to you, destinies were destroyed in 2015. People were banned. You know how many people are contesting presidential election this year? In 2015, it was just 2 candidates.
Okorafo is calling in from Abia. Good morning, Okorafo. Please go ahead with your contribution.
Yeah, good morning. Yes, from Aruchuki in Abia State, Okorafo. Honestly, good morning, Barrister Bana and Barrister Nwoke.
I'm not a barrister.
You see, okay, sorry. I don't know why Nigerians are complaining about the electoral bill amendment. You see, the election in Nigeria has gone to business as usual instead of a business unusual. Follow the right sequence and execute whatever you want to do. What is the Constitution talking or saying? What we need come 2019 is free, fair, and transparent election. The world are watching us, what we are doing and what we are saying. Because I've discovered that in this country, we believe on garbage in, garbage out, crash, everything in a hurry. Look, the rights of the Nigerians supersede anything. If the majority has said, okay, we have to endorse it. If the majority has said no, we have to follow the right thing. Because all this issue, does not help them. But 2019, the world are watching. Thank you very much. Have a blessed day.
Thank you very much, Okorafo, for your contribution. Let's begin to tidy this up now. I'm looking at the implication of this on the polity. You know, prior to this time, the challenge was the National Assembly should not be a rubber stamp to the executive. And then here comes the Muhammadu Buhari administration, and it's been a cat and mouse relationship between the executive and the legislative. This was what we wanted. But what is the implication of, you know, this seemingly not much of a romantic relationship on the Nigerian?
What should be uppermost in the mind of people who are in governance is the country, the interest of the country at heart. We're not saying that the two arms of government must be, you know, having what you call relationship of cat and a dog. They should actually have checks and balances, you know, in their way of operation. But the ultimate interest of the nation should always be uppermost. Whenever a concerned interest of all of them converge together, that is what we see happen in other, civilized clime. When the interest of the nation is at stake, they all come together. But in ensuring that there's no issue of autocracy, in ensuring that somebody does not in any way engage in abuse of power, they all engage in checks and balances. That is what is going on in America, where Trump sometimes is overruled by the court, sometimes even with the majority in the Senate, they also overrule him in some of the autocratic tendency he exhibits in dealing with people who come into America. So what we're saying here is that when this government came in, we were so happy that majority of the APC members were in the House. So we felt that anything that has to do with national interest, they will all come together and move this country forward. Right. And all those promises they made, all those changes, we were expecting it because they had majority in the House. But it turned out to be that it was a different ballgame entirely. The war started from beginning. And up to now, they have not been able, and it's a shame. It's a very big shame that this particular APC government has not been able to now add any improvement to this electoral, I'm coming, sir, to this electoral law. If eventually the president did not sign it, it doesn't mean that for 4 solid years, not even one singular amendment or improvement has been done in the electoral process. And it's a shame. It's a very big shame.
We have to go now. Chooks, you have just 30 seconds. Let me have your final thought on this.
Look, we're going to have our country. We're going to have this election. Like I said before, though, our own idea in our party is that these elections are not the solution to our national problems. We need to sit down and decide how we want to live together and have our nation. Than all these,
That's all right. Thank you, gentlemen, for your time. Monday Oyekachi Obade is former second national vice president of Nigeria Bar Association. Thank you for your thoughts on the program. Chooks Owoko, publisher and public affairs analyst. Thank you for having me. All right, a big thank you to all of our callers from Dokpemu to London, Ibadan, Shogbo, Kaduna, Lafia, Abia State. Thank you very much for your contribution. We'll be back tomorrow, God willing, with another exciting edition. I am Nifemi Oguntoye. Thanks for joining us.